Welcome to our Amud Yomi Shiur. We are in Kiddushin, Daf Chafhei Amud Aleph, middle of the sugya that discusses the freedom of an Eved. If an Eved was hit by his master, and now the Eved is missing one of the 24 limbs, 24 Evorim, 24 specific Evorim, which we mentioned in the Brisa, we're going to mention them again, then the Eved goes free. The Shiur is Le'ilu Nishmas, besides the other people we mentioned, it's Le'ilu Nishmas Chaya Bat Zalman Yitzchak and Malka Bas Chaim. Okay, the second one was Nifter tomorrow, was Nifter Asar B'Teves. Yeah, in other words, tomorrow Asar B'Teves, hopefully Mashiach will come and we won't have to fast on Friday. Okay, so now Tanakama said in the Mishnah that the Evorim, that the person goes out, the Eved goes out if they're missing the 24 Evorim, which are the 10 fingers, the 10 toes, I think that's 20, no? The nose, the 2 ears, and the organ, the male organ. And if it's a woman, yeah, then it's a breast. That's what we said according to Tanakama. It's important, very important now, to follow closely the order and the style of the brisa. Then afterwards we had Rebbe. Rebbe said in the brisa, you can go back to the first wide line if you want, even though we're not there now. Rebbe says af hasirus. Also, he says, also, besides what Chachamim said, also sirus, also castrating. What kind of castrating? Of the beitzim, yeah, of the testicles, yeah. And that was a chiddush. Rebbe thinks this is considered to be an exterior aver, even though the beitzim are inside the scrotum. Scrotum. Then said Ben Azai, also the tongue, right? Also the tongue. Okay? So it sounds as if he agrees to Rebbe. When you say also on top of the people before you, it sounds as if Rebbe agrees with Chachomim, the 24 Avorim plus the scrotum, yeah, plus the beitzim being disconnected but still inside. And then Ben Azai says, oh, I agree to that, and also the tongue, right? But Rebbe, L'choira, does not agree to the tongue. This is what we thought, right? Ben Azai is the one who says, no, also the tongue. Well, Rebbe knew about the tongue. Rebbe knew about the existence of the tongue in the human body, and Rebbe still omitted it, right? And only Ben Azai mentioned it. So it looks like Rebbe doesn't think that the tongue is part of the party. Why? Because tongue is sometimes hidden, as opposed to the tooth that you see much more often, the tooth when people smile, the tongue is still more hidden. So possibly Tanakama and Rebbe, before Ben Azai came to the scene, they just don't think the tongue is one of the Evorim that's exposed, because one of the standards, one of the parameters for an Aver to send out an Eved free, Baruch Hashem, is what? The fact that it's exposed, it's revealed, it's visible. Okay? And the problem is the Rebbe said otherwise. Rebbe said a few times, we saw, that the Lashon is considered to be exposed. Rebbe says regarding Hazah and regarding Mumim, we'll see it again later, Rebbe thinks that the Lashon, the tongue, is considered to be an exposed part of the body, because you can stick out your tongue. Shall I try it online to stick out my tongue? Not nice. And then what? And then that's why he believes that's considered as exposed. Ela says that we are now in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are the 7th or 8th line from the wide lines. The 7th or 8th wide line in the Daf Chafei Amud Aleph. Ela Rebbe Omer Sirus velo mibai loshon. Rebbe says Sirus. When Rebbe said Sirus, that if you take care of the person's beitzim, then of course he goes out, but lo mibai loshon. All the more so, needless to say loshon. Why? Because the one that's more exposed is the tongue. The tongue you can sometimes see. You look at the person's mouth, yeah, the tongue is out. You easily see the tongue when he talks or when he eats. V'shenken the beitzim inside the bag, inside the scrotum, you don't see that. You don't see the beitzim ever. And yet he considers them to be exposed, because you can see the scrotum itself, right? Scrotum. So that's why. That's what Rebbe holds. Ben Azai Omar, lo shoin avel sirus loy. Oh, Ben Azai, it's the other way around. In other words, Ben Azai agrees to Rebbe, yeah, but excuse me, Ben Azai argues with Rebbe. Ben Azai says only the loshon, only the tongue, but the ksirus lo, castrating is not. Okay. In other words, although Ben Azai said also the tongue, that also is not true regarding Rebbe. It is not coming to say, yeah, Rebbe, I agree with you regarding the sirus, the castrating, and also the tongue. I umay af. So what did really he mean? What did he mean when he said also? What do you mean also? Only the tongue, and not the castrating. So what did he say also? Answers the Gemara, akamaisa. When he said also, he's referring back to Chachomim. Yeah, he's saying he's kilu skipping over Rebbe's head. See the nice arrow over here? Also, he's kilu ignoring Rebbe, and he says, no, I disagree with Rebbe. When I said also, which is agreement and comes to add, that is to say, I agree to the 24 organs, and on top of that, also what? Also the tongue. And Rebbe is the one who should have been after Ben Azai. Rebbe should be at the end of the list, right? Because Rebbe is the one who says, I agree that the tongue, and I add also the seals, also castrating, right? Rebbe really should have been at the end of the list because he's the one who agrees with everyone, but not everyone agrees with him. And that's exactly the Gemara's next question. If so, Nakdama de Ben Azai bereisha. So why did you write it in such a distorted way? The Brisa should have mentioned Ben Azai first, yeah. The Brisa should have been mentioned, should have said Ben Azai first, and then Rebbe, right? That would be the right order. You understand why? Because really Ben Azai is the one that excludes Rebbe. He should have been there before. Ben Azai only agrees to who? To Tanakama. 24 Evorim, everyone agrees to that. Ben Azai say, oh, I should be talking first because I agree to the 24 and I add the tongue and I disagree with the Sirus. And then Rebbe should say, I agree with all of you, and on top of you, I also say Sirus. I say castrating on top of that. So the order is wrong. So why did the Brisa tell me the wrong order? Right? That's a problem. Answers the Gemara. Tana, yeah. Tana Shomo lederebi vekovo v'shama ledeben Azai ve'tani, which means the Mishnais and the Brises were written in a chronological order, in a historical way. Meaning, first of all, when the author of the Tana, of the Mishnah, the Brisa, he heard Rebbe's statement, the first statement he heard was Rebbe's. Historically, chronologically speaking, Rebbe's statement was heard in the Besmedrash first. They got the information from Rebbe first about castrating Vekovo, and then they set it in the Brisa. It was written in the Brisa. Only later, historically speaking, V'shomal de Ben Azai Vetani. Later on, I don't know, a month, a year or two later, they heard of Ben Azai's opinion about the tongue, and then they added that too. Okay? In other words, because the editing was done in such a way that Rebbe was added first. Rebbe was added in year 2, and Ben Azai year 3, and every time it's all patchwork. First the first patch, then the second patch. That's why it works that way. Why can't we change it? But now that we know, now that we have all opinions together, why shall we not change it to the Baruch Hashem, the logical order, exactly, and we should change things from historical to logical order. Says the Gemara, Mishnah lo mim koima. Sorry, Mishnah lo mim koima. And Mishnah does not move from its place, which means, explains Rashi, because Mishnahs, and apparently Brises too, interesting, they had to be memorized Baal Peh. The whole power of Mishnah is that it's memorized Baal Peh by heart all the time by the Talmidim. It's very hard to confuse people who are used to knowing something about Peh and change the order. Mishnah lo izozom imkoim. It's a rule in many places in Shas, and Mishnah is not changed. Once a Mishnah was written in a certain way, for example, over here, Rebbe was mentioned right after Tanakama, right? And later they added Ben Azai. So they add Rebbe and then Ben Azai, and that's where it's going to stay. Even though logic calls for change, that you first should write Ben Azai and then Rebbe, we didn't change it because we prefer the memory over the lack of memory, because Torah Shabbal Peh is all about tradition, and our Messiah is very important to remember halacha from father to son, from Rebbe to Talmud. This is our entire life, yeah, to know everything be'al peh from one generation to the other. Omar Ule, more on the same, more on the same. How many areas in halacha already have we seen that have to do with an exposed body part? We saw where? We saw the eved going out, right? Only if you smite exposed exterior parts of the body, right? We saw it regarding the pora aduma, the sprinkling of the water of the pora aduma. We saw it about tuma a little bit and mumim of a behema. Let's see more. Says Ula, hakol moidim beloshon. We're again talking about the tongue. We saw before mechloikes that Rebbe said regarding hazo. What's hazo? Sprinkling of the water of the pora aduma, yeah, of the Efer pora aduma with the meimayan, maim chaim. You sprinkle it on the person that is tome, yeah. Which body part do you have to sprinkle it on? On an exposed, yeah, meaning visible body part, excluding what? Says Rebbe that the tongue is included. If you sprinkled it on his tongue, it's okay. And Chachamim say no. They view the tongue as hidden. Okay? And Rebbe believes Ben Azai that the tongue is considered to be exposed. Says Ula, Hakol moidim beloshon inyan tuma de golihu. Etzel sheretz. Both Rebbe and Chachamim agree that when it comes to the area, to the realm of tuma, let's say, for example, sheretz, which we mentioned. Let's say a dead mouse touched your mouth. A dead mouse touched your mouth. To be more exact, it touched your tongue. Yeah, yeah. You're sticking out your tongue, and a dead mouse came, yeah, to the ice cream and touched your mouth, your tongue. Are you tome? Are you tome? Is it only if he touches your hands, the dead mouse, or your feet, your forehead, or also your tongue? Everyone agrees. Beloshon inyan tuma de goluihu. It's considered as something revealed. It's considered as revealed. Yes. Why? My time. Why? Asher yiga boy omer achmono dainami bar negia hu. Yeah. Asher yiga boy. In other words, the standard of the Torah for something that touch a body part that touches the tuma and that does make the person tome is something that is touchable. And therefore, since the tongue is very easily touched, look, yeah, you can touch your tongue. Yeah, no problem. People can touch your tongue very easily. Since the tongue is a part of the body that can be touched, bar negia, mimela, very good. Also, when it comes to tuma, then if the tongue touched the tuma, vice versa, then the body of the person became tome. Everyone agrees to that. That's a standard. Can you not touch it? You can very easily. You can touch the tongue. On the other hand, and the other opposite extreme, yeah, the extreme opposite, le'inyan tvila ketomun dami. Oh, which body parts have to be toivel? Yeah, in other words, when you toivel, let me ask you a question. When you go to mikveh, or let's say when a woman goes to mikveh, that really makes a difference. When a ger goes to mikveh, or a woman, when it's with the mikveh serious, not what you do every Friday, no, or if you do that. Yeah, le'inyan tvila, when you go to the mikveh for real halachic tvila, do you have to have your mouth open? We know that when women go to mikveh, they have to go crazy and clean every speck of every possible maybe dirt, right? Do they have to open their mouth and making sure that the water goes inside the entire mouth? Do they or don't they? Oh, I'm asking a question. I know you know the answer. So the inyan tvila kitomun dami. Yeah, regarding the tvila, the water of the mikveh have to touch the entire body. That is to say, only the exposed parts of the body. Hey, we said that the tongue is exposed. So does the woman in the mikveh or the ger or whoever's Yibone Beis Hamikdash will also have to go to mikveh? Yeah, they have to open your mouth, making sure that the water touches the tongue. We say no. Everyone agrees for tvila kitomun dami. It's tomun. It's considered as hidden. The tongue is considered as the hidden part, which does not have to come into contact with the water. My time. Why is that different? It says verochatz besoroi b'mayim. It says he washes his flesh with water. Okay, what's flesh with water? Really, it doesn't mean to wash. It means to immerse his flesh, his body in water. Just like the person's basar, the person's body, the regular body parts, the skin is ma'broi. as on the outside, right? On the outside, completely on the outside. Afkol me'aboy. So too, everything that's on the outside. Explains Rashi. Rashi says something very interesting over here. Rashi says if you're going to start with the tongue, yeah, and claiming that the water can come in, water cannot ever enter the entire mouth, anyways, right? Yeah, kol me'abroi means something that can really be touched. Unless she chokes, you're not going to have the water coming out. And also, you can't get the entire tongue out either. When you say stick your tongue out, you don't have, hopefully, you don't have the entire tongue out anyways, right? And tvila b'miktsas loy matzinu. There's no such thing of being toivel half. You know, tvila has to be very total, right? Precisely because tvila is a very extreme, total, all or nothing thing. Therefore, since the tongue, you cannot really be toivel the entire tongue. Mimela, what we say, you can't be toivel the tongue, and therefore the tongue is out of touch. The tvila doesn't have to reach it. It's not considered an exposed body part regarding the tvila. My time as we said, my boy. I've called my boy. So let's repeat. When you talk about exposed body parts, depends. When it comes to tuma, to become tome, any part of the body that makes you tome because it's exposed, because it can be touched by a sheretz. A tongue can be touched by a sheretz, sticks out your tongue, and the dead mouse is right next to it. You happen to, I don't know, you lie down, and the dead mouse is, touching your mouth. Very nice. In the middle of the night, you woke up like that. Okay, it's doable. It's shaykh. That's a tuma. So therefore, a tongue is considered exposed. It's touchable. When it comes to tahara, when it comes to the requirement of water having to reach that body part, the water does not have to reach your tongue. Why? Because the tongue, you can't have the entire tongue out. It has to be something that can be really enveloped by the water from all sides. That would never happen to the tongue. It's not ma'abroi. It's not really all out, all exterior, and therefore there's no demand of the water to touch the tongue. And when women go to the mikveh, yeah, that's halacha. The mouth is closed, not very closed, by the way, not very open. There has to be a certain position of the mouth, but lemaisa, a bit closed, a bit open. But the water does not have to reach their mouth inside. Okay, so and then everyone agrees to that. Everyone agrees to that. Lo inechleku. So what is the argument? When did Rabbi and Rabbanon argue? As we said before, elalinin hazo. The machlokes is middle of the road case is the hazo. That is to say, what's hazo? Sprinkling of the water of the poraduma. That is not mikveh, as we all know. What's hazo? Yeah, the person, by the way, doesn't have to be a Kohen. I recently read that usually Kohanim used to do it, but any person who's Israel and Godel and a male person can do the hazo. It takes the ezoiv, the hyssop, and with that he sprinkles over the person who's tome and the house and the kelim that are tome tumas mace. Whoever got in contact with the dead person, they get sprinkled on the third day and the seventh day of the process. Besides the mikveh, which is a different story. And then there are Torah. Now, le'inyan hazo, it says has to be on the person's body, on the outer part, meaning exterior part, yeah? Not somewhere which nobody can see and nobody can touch, yeah? Some kind of body part that's very internal, yeah, you don't sprinkle over there. Now, le'inyan hazo is a machloikes. Rebbe medamila letuma. Rebbe compares it to tuma, just like for tuma, a tongue is considered exposed. So too, regarding the hazo, it's exposed. Therefore, says Rebbe, if the person who's tome stuck out his tongue and the mazeh, the one purifying him, yeah, the drops of paraduma, they touch the tongue, it's okay. It's kosher, you're tahor. The Rabbanon medamilu letvila. Rabbanon compare that to tvila. Rabbanon compare the paraduma to tvila, to the tvila in the mikveh. Just like for the mikveh, it's considered as hidden, and the water doesn't have to reach it. So too, regarding the paraduma, it's hidden, and therefore it's not good. It's not like tvila lahaloch. In other words, but tvila, the one goes to the mikveh, mouth shut, and inside, I don't care what happens, it's not part of the story. Therefore, by hazo, it's also not part of the story. It's not part of the body, so to speak, and therefore the hazo won't help. The hazo doesn't help. Yeah, your mazeh on your tongue, not kosher. You still tummy, mister. You need to stand there again until the kohen does the hazo on your hand, yeah, or on your forehead. What's the source of the machlokes? Why? What is the source? What's the reason for the machlokes regarding hazo? That's the following pasuk that they argue on. This pasuk I highly recommend we read inside very carefully. If you're lucky enough to have Oiz V'Hodo, or even Gemara is older than that, I highly recommend you look at the side because we're going to analyze this pasuk. Yeah, it says like this. Yeah, Vehiza Ator, the last pasuk that should be mentioned in the sidebar of the Gemara. Vehiza Ator alatome beyoim hashlishi b'yom hashvi. The toher person, the pure person, sprinkles over the tome, the impure person, the third and seventh day. V'chit oi b'yom hashvi. What's v'chit oi? Word number one, v'chit oi. V'chit oi. What's it doesn't mean chait, it doesn't mean sin. V'chit oi. What's lechatei, Yitzchok? V'chit oi means to clean, to purify. Yeah, like mechateh is to cleanse in Hebrew. I know you know. V'chit oi, you purified. Continues the pasuk b'meshvi. V'chibes b'godov. Yeah, he washes his clothes, but that we don't relate to right now. V'chibes b'godov. Yeah, he has to purify the clothes too once he's tohar. Verochatz b'mayim v'toher ba'orev, and then verochatz b'mayim, and later on verochatz he has to go to mikveh. Yeah, and before v'chitoi it says tome, right? Tome and tohor are mentioned first, then timoi, then kibes, then rochatz. So we mentioned the pure, impure. Impure is mentioned first. Then we have to purify. Then we have washing the clothes, and then we have mikveh. Rochatz is mikveh. Okay, very interesting. Bizatar la tome, right? Impure on the tome. Yeah, right. Okay, so what do we make of that? Now that we have the pasuk in order, let's appreciate the machloikis. Says the Gemara as follows: Rebbe Soval, how do we break the pasuk? Vehiza ator ala tome v'yom hashlishi b'yom hashvi v'chitoi. Says Rebbe, you know what kind of shidduch do I like to do between the tome, the impure, and the purifying of paraduma? In other words, just like the impure, you become impure if the sheretz touched your tongue, so too. So the tongue is outside. So the tongue does count. So for the purifying of paraduma, also it's considered that touching the tongue is good enough. That's the shidduch I'd like to make. The Rabbanon Sabri, Rabbanon say no, we make a different shidduch. V'chita b'yom hashvi v'chibes b'godov v'rochatz b'mayim. We like to compare that purification of paraduma to the mikveh, just like because it says v'chitoi and then the rochatz. So just like the mikveh, the tongue is not considered part of the body because the water doesn't have to reach there. So too by purifying the purification water, they don't have to reach the tongue. And if they did, it doesn't work. What do you mean they don't have to? They can, but it won't help. Yeah, that's what Rabbanan say. Very nice. Rebbe relates to the beginning of the pasuk when to tuma, and he compares the purification to tuma, and Rabbanan compared the purification to the mikveh, to the tahara. Yeah, it seems to be that they only argue about how to cut and paste the pasuk, the syntax. Effect the Gemara. Why did they opt for that? Why? Why does each one stick his heels in the ground and learns dafka that way? Rabbanon nami nedame letuma. Why can't Rabbanon believe like Rebbe to compare it to tuma? Why do they argue with Rebbe? Why don't they agree that you can compare the purification of paraduma, the sprinkling on the tongue, to tuma, and by tuma the tongue is considered part of the body? Yes. Answers the Gemara, because we use our cup. Tahara mitahara havilah makes more sense hashkafically, logically, to compare purification to purification. That's mikveh that purifies the person. Paraduma purifies the person. Just like there are two stages in the purification process. Just like when you purify yourself in the mikveh, the tongue is out of the story, out of the business. So too by tahara of the paraduma. That's why we say that in both cases the tongue is not part of the story. By mikveh it's a kula, and by paraduma it's a chumrah. But at the end of the day, the tongue is out of bounds. It's not playing a part in the game of the tahara part. That's what they say. Rebbe. Now the question intensifies on Rebbe. Rebbe, what would you say? The Rebbe, V'Rebbe nami nedami letvila. Why doesn't Rebbe agree to them to compare it to tvila? Isn't it nice what they say? Purification should be like immersing in the mikveh. And says Rebbe, now you'll appreciate the whiteboard, the chibes begoda v'ifsika inyan. He says, excuse me, eh, eh. Between chita and rochatz, there's a word v'chibes begodov, that he has to wash his clothes. He has to put his clothes in the mikveh too. So they're not together. In other words, they are physically, textually together. The comparison, physically, so to speak, textually, between the impure and the paraduma is right there, one word next to the other, right next door. The shaken here, you have an interruption of the chibas godov, and I think the chibas godov interrupts between the two parshas, between the paraduma and the mikveh. That's why I don't learn like chachomim. Wow, very good. Correct the Gemara now. So that's the source for each one. So let's just summarize. Regarding Tvila, which we care about, everybody agrees that for Tvila, I'm using an extreme lashon on purpose, and it's not what I'm about to tell is not right, and soon you'll see why I'm saying it like that. When it comes to mikveh, the way I would read the Gemara and the way the Gemara understands itself, Rabbi and Rabbanan don't care at all what happens with the tongue, right? Now, the tongue is not, the water is not supposed to reach the tongue, right? So the tongue and the inner part of the mouth, the inner space of the mouth, the palate, the tongue, even the teeth, funnily enough, which were supposed to be exposed, right, which are considered to be exposed when it comes to Eved, it looks like this body part is out of touch, excuse the pun, with mikveh. Okay, so I would say, if I was the mikveh lady, if I was the rabbi who talks, about our samishpoch, I would say, I don't care. Yeah, the woman, I mean, nice if she brushes her teeth, even flosses, it's healthy. The dentist told me, yeah, I floss sometimes. But lamaisa, you don't really have to go crazy and clean your mouth very well, because anyhow the water is not going to reach there, right? So why do you care? I'm asking a question. Why do you need chatzitza? Why do you care about chatzitza? How do you say chatzitza in English? Interruption. So funny, right? So interruption. How do you say chatzitza? The kids say, we all know it's chatzitza. I'm still making fun. Yeah, the kids are, why do you care about chatzitza? The water doesn't reach. You think I'm look at the Gemara. Does Rebbe really think that regarding tvila, the tongue and its area are considered like tomun, like hidden, therefore, yeah, irrelevant vis-a-vis tvila? Is that so? Look, I'll prove you wrong. The Omar Rabin, Omar Rav Ada, Omar Yitzchak, three people, one passed the Masorah to the other. They told us a story which they know for sure is a true story. Story time. 1 second. And the story is Ma'ase b'shifcha shel beis Rebbe. Oh, Rebbe. There was a shifcha. Rebbe was a very rich man, right? Right at the end of Ksubas, he picked up his finger, lifted his fingers, and he said, I was not nehena, I was a millionaire, billionaire, but I really didn't enjoy this world. It was all for Torah. Rebbe was very rich. That's why he could write the Mishnah. He got all the chachomim. He had the power. And he had a shifcha, one of his shifcha, shetovlo. The shifcha was toivel. She went to the mikveh. But also, after she went up, she finished her tvila. V'nimtza etzem ben shineha. There was an etzem, which I assume is etzem kipshuto, is a small bone, maybe a fish bone that she ate yesterday. She had the gefilte fish yesterday, but she had it with a bone inside. Some gefilte has bones. She had the etzem between her teeth. Oh, so that hatita. V'tzricha Rebbe tvila ches, and Rebbe Paskin, to whoever took care of her, tell the shifcha, go again to clean her mouth and go again to the mikveh. Why? What do you care if your shifcha or anybody else has the bone? Let her have whatever chewing gum and the bamba and everything else. It's a steak. All the remnants can be in the mouth. Yeah, as long as you don't go to the dentist, you can go to the mikveh. Why? The water doesn't have to reach it. Question, and I know that's halacha, but why? Let me see the chat to keep you in suspense. Interposition. Buffer, barrier, interposition, and in simple words, who cares? But thank you for the word interposition. He did hear this word before. I appreciate the word. Thank you very much. Now, but why do we care about the interposition? Yeah, right? Next time you go, the lady goes to the mikveh, tell her to tell the mikveh attendant interposition. Yeah. So now, why do we care? The water doesn't have to reach it anyways, right? Answers the Gemara. This we're about to learn a Shas rule, which again appears many, many times in the Gemara, a rule that follows us through halacha. The Omar Rabbi Zeira, Kol haroi lebila ein bila me'akeves boy, v'she'ein haroi lebila bila me'akeves boy. In one word in English, potential is all that matters, which means Kol ha'oil bila is, I'll first tell you the specific case, and then the rule that we'll learn we derive from that specific case. We all know that a person brings a mincha to Beis Hamikdash. When a person brings a mincha to Beis Hamikdash, oh, so let's say you have one isoroin, one small amount, the minimal amount of flour that you bring. Let's say you bring the regular mincha, the meal offering, yeah, and that is one isoroin. One isoroin, I'm not sure exactly how much, I forgot exactly how much it is in modern terms. It's a small amount of flour, yeah, and with that, unless it's a soita, no, that's kmitza from the isoroin. No, sorry. Now you bring an isoroin, and from that with the isoroin, unless you're a soita, maybe which you're not, yeah, then you have to bring what? You have to bring oil, right? Oil, shemen zayis, and you mix the two together. Part of the avoida, they mix it together. The oil and the flour mix together. For every isoroin, I think you have to bring one log. It's called, yeah, one log, which is like a bag of milk, kind of more or less a liter, a little bit more. Yeah, a log of shemen together with the isoroin. All very nice. What about if you bring, you're a bit miser or you don't have the money, and you brought one log of shemen and you brought two esroinos? The ratio is different. In other words, you brought the same amount of oil, but you bring more flour and more flour and more flour and more flour, still staying with the same amount of oil. Is that kosher? Is that good? In other words, will you be able to mix it together eventually and the mixture will still be good? Said the Gemara a rule, you can bring up to 61. Wow. You can bring up to 61, up to, yeah, but not shishim. 60 is a maximum. You can bring 60 esronos that will still be covered by one portion of oil. Wow. In other words, and that portion of oil, if you want to, you can still mix it and it's mixable. Yeah, we all know, yeah, whenever you prepare some kind of food that involves, let's say dough, yeah, you can really play with the dough. Sometimes the dough will be more runny and sometimes will be much, much more dense, right? But many times the same amount of water will be good for a small amount of flour or for a big amount of flour. And here the dough will be very runny, and here the dough will be very, very dense and thick. But at the end of the day, it's still doable. So the Gemara says, I think it's a Mishnah over there, it says that you are not allowed to bring 61. 61 you cannot bring. That's the limit. To bring one portion of oil, which is one log, if I remember correct, up to 60, that's still okay, still covers it. 61, that already you exceeded the amount. Yeah, you over exceeded it, that's too much. Frag the Gemara, why? Because we say up to 60, they still mix okay. Yeah, they'll be very, very thick. The mixture will end up very thick probably, but one log of oil can still mix equally. You can still make a nice, okay dough without having those dry patches here and there, right? These dry pockets. You can still manage with one log of oil over 60, can take care of 60 amounts of 60 of flour. 61, no. Oil for 61, you'll for sure have those fichi dry patches. The oil will not reach everywhere. As professional as you are, it's just not going to work. So the Gemara, who cares? It says anyway in the Mishnah that even if you did not mix the oil with the flour well, even if it's not nicely mixed, it's still okay. Halacha says that if you have the oil and the flour together and the mixture is not who knows what, loy bola, there's no good lila, it's still okay. So who cares if it's 60 or 61? Here comes the big, big rule which has many applications in halacha, many applications in halacha, and that is potential. That's how you call it in nice English, potential. If you have one log of oil with up to 60 units of flour, it can, yes, we can, yes, you can. We can mix it if we want to, yes, so even if we don't mix it, it's okay, but had we wanted to, it would mix very nicely. 61, even potentially, once you went overboard, you exceeded it to 61, with all the good will in the world, the best kohen, and Lahavdil, the best French chef, nobody can mix the one log with 61. It's not even in potential mixable. Then it's possible you cannot bring it to Beis Hamikdash. The Zelbe Zach do the same thing over here. When the Torah tells me, according to both Rabbi and Rabbanon, that only the touchable parts, the open space of the body, has to be touched by the water, it's true. but the inside of the body, the palate, the inner part of the body, the palate, the tongue, the teeth, the chule, those have to be potentially kosher and ready, and good to accept the water. Had the water gone inside, it would have been wow. The water would have touched everywhere. There would be no interposition between the water and your teeth, your tongue, your palate, your inner, your gums, v'chule v'chule. And in that is the rule of kol. That's one of kamina from kol labila. Okay, in Mela, it's not a steer, so everybody agrees the tongue does not have to come in contact with the water. However, it has to be good and ready, and available for the water to enter each and every millimeter of the mouth, and that's the halacha today. Women do have to take care of the mouth when they go to mikveh, and they do, very nicely, and that is because of this halacha we just learned now. Kiddushin Chafei Amud Aleph. Ketanoi. Is everybody happy? So I'm also happy to continue. Yes, you good? Baruch Hashem. Ketanoi. Turn the page. At the end of the day, we see again that the business of if the person, the sirus, if a person was misaris, castrated someone, the beitzim, by leaving the beitzim in the scrotum. Will I ever get it right? Scrotum. In the scrotum, and what happens next? You cannot see the beitzim because they're inside that piece of skin, whatever you call it, right? You can't see them. However, the actual body part is actually very exposed, it protrudes, it's out, So now the question is that called golui, or is that called nista? Is that called halachically visible exposed, or it's because they're not exposed, right? The outside is exposed, the area is exposed, but the actual mum itself inside is not, right? So what's the halacha? We said it was Rebbe versus Rabbanon, right? And Ben Azai, Rebbe believed yes, and they said no. Let's see another machlokes tanoim, even more mefurash. It says in the Torah regarding the types of mumim, the types of blemishes, the mumim that can disqualify a korban, and also you're not allowed to do it to an animal, and people do that to dogs, unfortunately, but you're not allowed to. It's avera, and people do this avera. From people do this avera, although it's an isodoraisa, unfortunately. It says the following: umouch v'kosus v'notuk v'korus. There are four types of castration that are considered as mum. If the animal it happened to the animal by itself, let's say goat, a sheep, a cow, you want to bring it to Beis Mikdash as a korban, it's male, you have to check its genitals, excuse the word, you have to check it and see like the rest of the body to see that it's kosher. If it has one of those four blemishes, then it's disqualified, off the mizbeach. What are they? Umouch. Mouch means like not completely crushed. I would say meshed, like meshed but not crushed. The kosus is crushed, In other words, somebody very cruelly, I guess, took and actually crushed the beitzim, crushed the testicles, either like meshing them or mamish crushing them. Kosus is more than mouch. That's what it says, in the Chumash also. The notuk, the korus. Notuk is machloikes. Notuk, I'm following what Rashi says over here. Notuk is when it's completely, when the either the organ, as we're going to see, or the beitzim are completely disconnected. Somebody pulled them, and inside they're disconnected from the root. Right? There's something that connects the beitzim to the body, some veins or something. And those veins, he completely disconnected them. Lenatek. What's it? Nituk? Disconnection. He disconnected completely the chorus. Chorus, funnily enough, although we always say chorus is severing, Rashi here says the chorus is less severed. In other words, he cut it, not with his hands. He didn't pull it with his hands, but he actually cut it with a knife, but they're still partially dangling there. They're still like, a little bit connected, but not. In other words, chorus is a lighter version of notuk, and also one with a hand, one with a knife. Notuk is, imagine somebody like boom, like cutting it, like disconnecting with your hand. You pull it down. In chorus, you took a knife and you partially you made an incision. Kulan bebeitzim. All those apply in beitzim. They apply to the testicles. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Frek the Gemara bebeitzim loy begid. You want to tell me only in the beitzim and not in the actual gid, not in the actual bris milah of the behema? Not in the gid. Doesn't make sense. If the beitzim that are hidden, or the more so in the gid, Yeah, if you crushed the gid or if you disconnected the gid, you did the ver mehuder bris milah plus plus, yeah, to the animal like begid, yeah. Is that only beitzim and not gid? Doesn't make sense. Ela must be kulan af the beitzim diva abuda. Obviously, Abuda meant to say not only if you castrated him in any one of those four ways by gid, of course in the gid, but even the beitzim, which is more hidden, Abuda basically supports Rebbe, right? That it is considered to be castrating the animal, or and the damage, and also for the Eved would be the same thing for Eved Knani. It's considered as a real damage which is exposed. That's Abuda. Ablezer ben Yaakov, no, kulam begid. Ablezer ben Yaakov says no, all these only apply in the gid, because in the gid it's really exposed. Yeah, you see right away. You look at the person, you see right away that the gid is either crushed, partially crushed, smashed, crushed, or cut off. You see that. That's no question. The beitzim is not as clear what happens really inside the scrotum. Rabbi Yosi says as follows: depends. It says depends. This has to do with the question regarding the ribs. Moch v'kosus af bebeitzim, notuk v'kos begid in bebeitzim loy. Rabbi Yosi says I would like to differentiate and divide between the two groups of damages that are done here. Right? There are four types of castration. You can clearly divide them into two groups: the crushing type, the crushing, and the cutting. Two types of crushing and two types of cutting. Says Rabbi Yosi, moch v'kosus af bebeitzim. If somebody crushes someone's beitzim, it's very visible. The whole surah of the scrotum, yeah, is mamish different. You see, yeah, instead of the beitzim, you have a sunny side up. You have a completely whole different story. Yeah, it's mamish visibly very different. Yeah, Mashenke notuk v'kos. When you talk about cutting, no, since you cut them in the inside, but you see a scrotum that looks whole and intact, and inside they're cut, you don't see what's going on inside. Maybe a little bit, not as much. And therefore, in the gid, if you cut the gid, it's visible. Of course, it's called castrating, and it's called movement, it's called freeing the evidence. The shenke the beitzim, it's not. Adkan. End of sugya. So the ma'aseh it's machlokes tanoim. What's the halacha? The halacha is, I don't know. The halacha is, I did not check the halacha regarding this. We can check with the Ein Mishpat about the halacha regarding the sirus. The 1 second. No, it looks like the beitzim is not. So kach nearly that the beitzim are not. What? Gid, yes. Gid, of course. Gid was never a question. Gid was never a question. Not the scrotum. The gid. The scrotum you told me. Scrotum is the bag. You told me not to say bag. The gid is the penis. The gid is a bris milah. And there, of course, I said bris milah, loshen nekiah. If you cut someone's gid, it was agreed right from the start, that's considered a very visible mum. He doesn't have the thing, or even halfway, or if it's partially cut, yeah, but you can see a real cut in the middle of whatever, and you see that it's not all there. Then obviously it's a visible, exposed, real damage, and therefore what? I mean, the other was also damage, but it's not called exposed vis-a-vis a mum of an animal or vis-a-vis the evet to go free. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, beitzim are in Hebrew eggs, which are testicles. Whenever we spoke about beitzim, we said that the beitzim that we're discussing all the time are beitzim that stayed in the scrotum, right? And that was the question, because Rashi said right at the start, or even before that, I saw it in other meforshim, that if you talk about a guy who really cut off the entire scrotum, the whole story, the whole business over there, then of course it's called nezek, obviously, because it's like the gid. If you cut off the whole thing, then clearly that's considered to be exposed. That wasn't even a question on the menu. The whole question is a not philosophical, it's a lomdisha question. It's a question in Hagdor, in definition. When you say that the aver has to be exposed in order to get the Eved out, the damaged aver, is that called exposed? On one hand, the scrotum stays intact, or almost intact, yeah, but in the inside, the beitzim are cut off. So mitzad, what you can see, you don't see the damage, but you see the body part where the damage was done, and it's sticking out, as opposed to the ribs, which are not sticking out. The ribs are part of the main part of the body. It has to be part that sticks out. Okay? Fine. Or the if somebody breaks someone's rib, it's not so visible. I mean, it's a little bit visible. It's not like not like this. I'm excited to start the new Mishnah. The new Mishnah is about kinyonim. So basically, our Masechta already covered the topics of Kiddushin, and it covered the issues of the Eved Ivri, Eved Knaini, the 24 Evorim, and now we're going to start the third topic of kinyonim, of how does one acquire all kinds of things. We saw these matters appearing in many, many other places in Shas. It appears, in Bava Basra a lot, in the fifth parak of Bava Basra, and it appears in Bava Metzia in different places, in other places. And here the source. The source of kinyonim is right over here. By the way, just to keep you interested and in alert, the following topic, after a few kinyonim, we're going to talk about kinyonim of metaltalin, of mobile goods. We're going to talk about kinyonim of karka, and the next topic is going to be about chiyuvim and father towards the son and kibud of v'eim. All the topics of kibud of v'eim are going to appear in our masechta, and also mitzvahs of men versus mitzvahs of women. All kinds of interesting things. And the first parak is very, very long. I think it's the longest in Shas. It's 40 dapim, I think, or 40 up to 41 kimat. Yeah, it's a long parak. Yeah, many interesting topics. So let's dive into the next Mishnah. Says the Heilige Mishnah, Behema Gasa, without explaining much for now, Behema Gasa niknes b'mesira ve'adaka be'agbo divrei Rabbi Meir. Yeah, Rabbi Meir v'Rabbi Eliezer, which means Behema Gasa, a big animal such as a cow, right, or an elephant, which we're going to mention later. Yeah, you buy an elephant. Well, how will you have a circus without an elephant? You need an elephant, yeah, right? So now you have a cow or an elephant you want to buy, a cow. And how do you acquire the cow? Yeah, you don't really pick it up, I don't think. So what do? You do a kinyan that befits the animal. What is a kinyan? Mesira. What is mesira? Huge machlokas rishonim. I'm reading Rashi inside, and I invite you to read it with me. It says Rashi, niknas b'mesira, ba'alea moisrim oisel lokeach, be'afsar oy be'seoro. The Bailim actually gives it over, limso, like in modern Hebrew. He hands over the animal, with the afsar, with like the muzzle, with the mouthpiece, or with the hair. The other one takes a bit of the mane, let's say it's a horse, and he gives over the hair to the buyer, and that shows that the animal is his, right? And then continues Rashi, everything here is machlokes. I'm reading Rashi, so you should realize we're going to see later a lot of other opinions. I'm skipping a second. Aval Mashicha, but I mean Rashi. Aval Mashicha lo miknya. Mashicha, according to the first opinion of Rabbi Meir, Mashicha does not. Mashicha is what? Is pulling the animal. That does not work for the big animal. The ein dalka bekach lo licha lefanov. It's not normal to take the cow and schlep it ahead of you. You schlep other animals, but lo licha lefanov by a big animal is not so normal apparently, and therefore, people usually don't pull horses, only a little bit, they ride on them. For example, so to pull the big animal is not normal. Now, I'm on purpose not telling you about Tosfos and the Ritva, because I want us to digest Rashi first. Rashi told us a very, very important a rule over here. What is that? Rashi told us the way to acquire something is the normal way of a Bailim to behave with that object, right? In other words, even if my name was Mike Tyson, and I can actually pick up a cow, and it's not so hard for me, I still wouldn't be calling a cow in Hagbo. Why? Because it's not normal to pick up cows. Even if you're a bodybuilder, you don't do that all day long. You pick up your little poodle, your little dog, you pick up your cat, and you pull maybe the cow, or according to Rameir, not even that. Therefore, you have to behave like an owner. What does kinyan mean anyways? Kinyan means, as you all know, I behave like an owner in front of the Bailim, or with the agreement of the previous Bailim, right? And that is called Hoiroas Bailus. These words appear all the time in the Mefolshim. Hoiroas, demonstration of ownership. I behave like I'm the big boss, so each animal or each item, I have to behave like the boss would behave to that particular animal. And therefore, says Rabbi Meir, I'm ignoring the other Rishonim, it's hard for me. Says Rashi, Behema Gasa, according to Rabbi Meir, the only way to acquire Behema Gasa, maybe there are other ways, but the only physical way to acquire it, out of, and by the way, you have to realize that this Mishnah has three competitors, Mesira, Meshicha, and here it comes, Hagbo. You already know it. I know you know it, I'm just summarizing, There's Mesira, handing over, without moving anything, like to hand over the keys of the car, so to speak. I hand over the muzzle, right? Or Meshicha to pull, Hagba to pick up. They're all physical kinyonim. as opposed to chazaka, which doesn't apply here, or chalipin, which is different. We're not talking about them. Here we talk about physical kinyonim. We either lift it, you pull it, you hold it. That's the story. I'm reading again the Mishnah. Be'emegasa, what's the only way out of the three to acquire be'emegasa? Niknes be'mesira. Mesira only. That's how a balabais behaves with a big cow. He holds it by the muzzle, he holds it by the hair. Yeah. Be'mesira. Be'adaka be'hagbo. The daka, the small animal. For example, the sheep, the goat. Today would be a dog and a cat. How do you acquire them? Pick them up. It's very easy to pick up a little lamb. Mary had a little lamb. She picked it up. Yeah. Be'agbo. Div Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Elozo. That's what Rabbi Elozo say. Be'chachomim omrim. Be'medaka niknes be'meshicha. Yeah. Be'medaka be'meshicha, which means the Nekama says daka b'agbo meant exclusively b'agbo. According to Rabbi Meir, the daka, the small animal, you pick it up and meshicha won't help. By the way, agbo is a better kinyan than meshicha. Agbo works everywhere. Meshicha doesn't work everywhere. So Tanakama says, go for the gold. You can only be kind of the small animal by picking it up. And I told you a few days ago, picking up means it's kilu in my pocket, in my body. It's with me. It's the closest kinyan to myself. And not meshicha. Meshicha means it's following me to my domain, not mamish close by. So Tanakama says, for a small animal, if you pick it up, nothing less than that would work. Only picking up, says Tanakama. Chachamim say no. Be'madaka niknes be'meshicha. Probably they mean to say also be'meshicha, not only bagbo. That is what I assume it says right now. And this is now the Mishnah according to Rashi. I'm not saying Tosas and Ritva yet, and I'm continuing the Gemara on purpose. On Sunday, we will have the Tosas and the Ritva chart in the Mishnah. Okay, I promise. Be'ezras Hashem. Dorosh Rav beKimchonaya. Rav made a drosha in the city of Kimchonaya. I know it's my fault, but do you mind staying the extra 2 minutes because I was late? If you don't mind, let's just pay for the lost time. Dorosh Rav beKimchonaya. Rav had made a drosha in the city of Kimchonaya. Be'ema gasa niknes be'meshicha. Okay, he said the big animal, the be'ema gasa, is nikne by pulling. Is that nice according to Rabbi Meir? No. Okay, but who said Rav has to follow Rabbi Meir? Okay, but Rav says Be'emagasa, it's not mesira. You have to be koine it by what? By pulling it. Okay. Ashkechinu Shmuel l'talmidei de Rav. Shmuel found the talmidim of Rav and conversed with them. Omer lehu, Shmuel asked Rav's talmidim, is it true what I heard what Rav said in Shiur? Is that what your rabbi said? Mi Omer Rav be'emagasa niknes be'meshicha? Did Rav really say be'emagasa can be acquired through Meshicha by pulling the cow, pulling the elephant? Yeah, is that so? Ba'anan b'mesiratnan. We read in the Mishnah, be'emagasa niknes b'mesira. And by the way, Chachomim, if you look at the Mishnah, they never argued on that point, right? There's an argument about the little animal. When I finish reading the Mishnah, all I know about be'emagasa is mesira. That's all. The argument was about a little lamb, not about the big one. When you finish the Mishnah, the one piece of information that seems to be agreed upon all, according to Rashi, it's actually all very clear according to Rashi. Be'emagasa, only mesira. You hand over the piece of hair, the piece of muzzle, the bit, something like that. That's it. No meshicha, no agba. How's Rav talking against the Mishnah? Rav nami be'mesira omar. And by the way, Rav himself also said outright, he himself said, also used to always says as Rashi, Rav would always teach us be'emagasa be'mesira. Hodar be'me'ahi. Did Rav actually regret, change his mind? Did Rav all of a sudden change his mind? Is that so? Answers the Gemara, who no, Rav did not change his mind personally, but in that Shiur, he was following a different Mishnah to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah, as Mishnahs tend to be, is not the only game in town. When Rav said that the Be'emagas is Be'meshicha, not Mesira, it was following a different Tana. The Tanya, it says, the Chachomim oimrim zu vezu niknes Be'meshicha. Ay. In other words, our Mishnah said that Chachomim only argued about Be'ema Daka, that the goat and the lamb are Be'meshicha, and not the Be'ema Gasa. Be'ema Gasa Mesira, like Rabbi Meir. Yeah? But the Brisa said Zu Vezu, both small animal and big animal Be'meshicha. Ay. Wow. In other words, the Brisa is adding one word, very crucial word. According to the Brisa, Rabbi Meir says that the big animal is by Mesira, the small, I know I need a chart, yeah. The small animal by picking up. Chachamim say both big and small by Meshicha, by pulling them. You pull both of them. Okay, both of them by pulling. And that's what Rav says. Now we're catching Rav. Now Rav is good. Rav followed Chachamim the Brisa. Be'imagasa niknes b'mashicha. That's the halacha. Is you can be calling a big animal be mashicha, not only Mesira. Rabbi Shimon Oimer Zuv Zubagbo. Wow. Rabbi Shimon says both small animal and big animal is nikne b'hagbo by picking them up. Wow. Says Rashi, veloy b'mesira, veloy b'meshicha. Mesira and meshicha, it's not so clear if they're exclusive. But hagbo, once hagbo is there, hagbo, as I told you, is always better than the other two. So Rabbi Shimon is so finicky, so to speak, and he says big and small are only nikne b'hagbo and nothing else, because once hagbo is there, hagbo is the queen of kinyonim. Everyone else is out. And obviously the question is going to be on Sunday, and we'll leave you, we'll leave you waiting for the answer. Maskef of Yosef, ela me'ato pil. What's a pil? Oh, really? If you want to acquire an elephant, yeah, your circus needs an elephant. How do you have a circus without an elephant? A kosher circus, everything tzanua, everything without tzar malachaim. Kosher Madrin circus. Well, is that so? The Rabbi Shimon B'mayik. In case your name is not Mr. Universe, in case you're a regular guy, computer programmer from Amud B'Shemesh, I don't know if you can pick up an elephant. I never tried. I don't know. How will you acquire the elephant? You really require both big and small animals to be acquired by picking up. How will you be coin a pill? How will you acquire an elephant? The elephant question is going to haunt us through. After you check these teeth already, is it good? You don't have to check them; they're sticking out. You saw already the ivories. Yeah, it's nice, the ivory. But what are you gonna do now? Yeah, you have to pick it up. Atzlacha bracha. Thank you to everybody over here. Thank you to our YouTube viewers and the Torah Anytime Heilige crowd. Atzlacha bracha. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody on Zoom. So many people on Zoom. Wow. Atzlacha. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Shkoyach. Okay. Thank you. Have a good Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos to you too. Archkol made a chart. Very nice. I'm very happy for Archkol for making such a beautiful chart. I appreciate that. Thank you. No, really, not sarcastic. Thank you. Love it. Shkoyach. Thank you. Good Shabbos. I wanted the chart. The mile of a chart is when you make it yourself. That's why I don't look at it. I'm sure they made a terrific chart, but when you position everything in the chart, you really learn the sugya. When you receive the chart, it's already spoon feeding.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful show.
You too, Rabbeinu Nachman.